So today I'm going to be doing a blitz critique hour, meaning I'm going to be looking at 3 different pieces and giving my quick thoughts on all of them, maybe focusing a little extra on one of them. Before I get started, if you are interested in submitting your work for critique, you can submit your work for critique through my subreddit. So all you got to do is click on istebrak.com, and that'll take you to my subreddit where you can submit your work for critique. That's this icon right here. So you click on that. And this is the subreddit. This is where we submit everything. There is a community challenge coming up, and that community challenge has rewards, and the rewards are basically everything in my store. You get up to 2 sessions portfolio review with me. We go through your entire portfolio. You get to sit with me during the class. Your voice and everything gets added to the recording and all of that, and you help me critique all the pieces submitted to the challenge. And then there is also brushes, my masterclass, etc. All of those things are given to you. So if you are interested in basically winning everything I can give, please consider joining the challenge, and you can keep an eye out on the challenge announcements through the subreddit. So again, istebrak.com, and click on the Reddit icon right here. That'll take you to my subreddit. The next lesson that will be uploaded on my Gumroad is form. Everything about form. How to draw a form study. How to apply light on form. The theory of light on form. Edge control. How to raise the resolution of a study. There's just every possible thing that I know about making an object look 3-dimensional without the 3rd dimension access, just with 2 dimensions, which is illustrating, will be added to that tutorial. So everything you've ever heard me discuss, it'll be a total masterclass on light on form and everything in between. This is a stylization portrait that I turned into a tutorial for anyone interested. It's completely different from the critique hour where you saw this study. I go into how to render the hair in a stylized way and how to draw a stylized face, how to control the style and control realism. And of course, my masterclass, you all know about that. For just today, for those watching the stream and those watching the recording on YouTube, I have started implementing promo codes. So for anyone watching right now, there's only 10 uses. My masterclass and my portrait tutorial, you can get one or the other for 10% off if you use the code that will be uploaded to the recording. But the code will be stream10. So that will be live as soon as I'm done the class today. You guys can grab this, but it's only 10 uses. I can't give more because they're already so reduced. So for anyone who's interested in getting these and has just heard about them, they don't have them, if you use the code stream10, 10 uses that will stay live until they've been used up. There's no due date on those. So that's for every stream. I'm going to be doing this for every stream I do, as well as kind of releasing and anticipating the release of my form study masterclass, which is such a big deal. So much information goes into it. And you go in not knowing how to do anything in art, you'll come out at least being able to sculpt with 2 dimensions. So all of my tutorials are beginner friendly. Every last one of them. I never paint in a way where I assume you know things going in, like some kind of biology class or something. There's no AP version. I start from the ground up every time I teach. It's the way I think as well. So I hope you guys learned something from my tutorials. Let's get started on these pieces. I want to leave this one for last. I want to get through the other ones first. So let's look at this one. When you guys do side view, almost every single time you guys overwork the side of the face. The side of the face doesn't have any of these edges you see here. So there's an edge right here. The side of the face has these edges for sure, but they are not this defined. This is much too defined. So let's jump into Liquify really quickly. And then go back into the paintbrush just so I can show you where these issues are. Actually, I can't do these with Liquify. Let's do them with the transform and lasso. So I'm going to select the eye, and I'm going to push it closer to the edge of the face. So we're seeing a lot of front view influence on the way you draw side view. Side view is you've halved everything. Write that back to me. Side view is the halving of all of the features of the face. There's no way around it. If you are showing more than you need, you are breaking the law of rotation. So there's only half of the object visible. So imagine a ball, and on the ball is a star, and we're seeing this ball from side view. We're only going to get half the star, just cutting the star right in half. If the star was drawn properly, we would only get half the star. So why do you guys force your way into showing all of these features every single time? For example, where you've done it is the eyebrow right here. So I'm really going to have to do some surgery. The eyebrow ends at the middle, right? In between the nose. In between the eyes, right above the nose, that's where the eyebrows kind of end off. But we've rotated just enough that the eyebrow is no longer facing the camera. We see the tail end of the eyebrow. Okay? So we're not seeing a front view eyebrow anymore. Your eyebrow was also just a little bit too low for like that classic beautiful female template. Okay, so before front view eyebrow. Do you see what I mean by front view eyebrow? You have the arc of the eyebrow facing the camera, meaning you have an eyeball. Oops. You have an eyeball, right? And then you have the shape. The eyebrow does something like this in front view, right? The eyebrow arc is towards the latter end of the eyebrow or the eye. Okay, so this is what we see. We see the arc along the line of the temple line. The temple line for side view has been pushed all the way over there. So your arc is way too early. Alrighty. So I am just pushing the arc closer. I'll fix it in Liquify to match the old one. The next thing you did is you showed us where the eye kind of connects to the corner of the crease. So again, front view eye, and then crease, they usually attach or they're usually kind of beside each other. In side view, they don't connect. We see the side of the eye, so we're not seeing this perspective effect where the corner of the eye and the eye socket are one thing. We also see literally half an eyeball. And so when you show some kind of curve and then try to make it look like side view, that does not look right. Side view has more of a straight triangle coming off of the sphere. We don't see this like front view curvature for a side view eye. That is wrong. I hope you guys understand what I mean. Everything is halved, all right? So that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to show more of a straight line for the upper eyelid and a straight line for the lower eyelid. And I want to push out the eye even more. I should have probably raised the resolution. This is excruciating. And then we've got the crease line. And then we've got the lower eyelid line and mostly the lower eyelid surface area. Okay? So my masterclass and my other class, the portrait stylization tutorial, are all going to be part of that code if you guys want to purchase that. But again, only 10 people can use it, and it'll be uploaded with the recording of today. And it's going to be stream 10. It's always going to be the code stream 10. It's just the uses that run out. So what I see here is a little curve. You're trying to show that the mouth is smiling. Why don't you show it with the mouth instead of that line corner? You're relying too much on the corner of the mouth to do the smiling for you. Why haven't you done it with the whole mouth instead? Okay? And then the nostril, we need to see a little bit more of it, but that's it. I think you did okay with the nose. And then this guy. First of all, I really don't understand the values you're using. I understand you're trying to paint a darker skin tone, but these values darker skin tones go cool at night. They don't turn warmer or green. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. So right here, what I'm doing is I'm blending away this edge you have, which has not only made her skin look muddy, but it's kind of given her like a masculine jawline. But even then, even male characters don't have such a defined edge from the side. So there's all kinds of value sharing, line dependence, and you can tell that this student, if this was a student booking with me and I'm diagnosing them, this would instantly be a sign for me to just make them do some studies, form studies. Because I can see all the ways that they are compensating for the lack of form knowledge with outlining, compensating for the lack of rotation knowledge with lines or decorative features. So next up would be the placement of the face. So let's do my trick. You guys remember that trick I do? So I separate the whole face, and instead I get rid of the face and the head. Instead of having a face, I just leave the side of the head. Just the head without any features, as if it was just a blank face. All right. So we're getting rid of it completely. We're gonna ignore it for a little while, and we're gonna just look away, imagine other things, you know, look at other things real quick. In fact, you know, to help refresh your eyes a little bit, I'm gonna jump into the next portrait critique, the next critique, but not like, I'm not doing an extensive one for that one, and then jump back into this one so you really get a refresher. All right, so for this one, the biggest problem with it is the head size and the body size. Unless this deliberately is some kind of race that you're trying to depict, this is extremely disproportionate. Extremely disproportionate. So there's two options: increase the size of the head proportionate to the rest of the body, or decrease the size of the body proportionate to the head. It really just depends on what you want to preserve in the painting. We are talking this much bigger. Yes, that head size, that width was straight up like Viking. That was like, that was just, the size of her body did not make sense to her, one, gender and her body type that you were trying to represent. Okay, this is where the head should be. All right, so let's jump back into this one, and then in a second I'll jump back into this one and show you what the head was looking like, so you can really see the benefit of taking a break from your painting, taking a break from the area that's problematic to you. All right, so everybody ready? This is what the head looked like before. I don't know if I can do it like that. Completely low. It was so low, and you'll see how low it was in a second. So I'm going to rotate the face with the head, match it to the size of the head, and then liquefy it so that it matches the chin. Okay? And she's kind of just looking up at her magic. And I really want to make her face reach out and match the neckline to it. Okay, and then we're just going to flip the canvas, merge down, and clean up the rest. So the chin was just a little bit weak, and I'm just going to throw in some kind of tilt in her head. Create some distance between her head and her hairline. Bring that arc back a little bit closer, and tuck in the ear along the nose and eye line. Okay, and then bring that jawline back there. And then I'll show you one more time what it looked like before. So before I did all that. Okay. Oh. Do you see that? Do you see how squished down it was? She was just squished down like that. She's tilting her head up, so there should be a lot more room for her chin to come out. So when you take a break and you turn off the face, and kind of just completely iron it out, completely get rid of it, what happens is you get a new, fresh look into the way you've made this mistake and what's required for it to reach that vision you have in your mind. Self-critique is such an underrated tool. All right. So see where it was before and then where it is now. Her head is lifted just a little bit higher and her gesture makes much more sense. As for the skin tone, it's jumping around. Either it's really dark and blue or it's very light. It's not making much sense. It looks less like light and more like patchiness. I think you should find a good reference for skin tones that are dark, and you don't need that much brown to represent a brown person. It's not actually that literal. So what I would do if I were you is I would just get this environment color. And I would use color wash to try to get rid of most of the skin tone that you have. Turn it blue. This is the environment we're in. We're in a very blue environment, but we have a very, very dominant yellow tone. So what I'm going to do is go before I did that, paste it back in, and only delete and show brown where that yellow is dominating. So wherever we have the rotation of the object towards this yellow light is where we'll actually get to see the brown of her skin. Because apart from this yellow light, there's really no other way we could see her true skin tone. The only way to see true skin tone is in the sunlight. Write that back to me. Everything else outside of that is blue. All right, so you need to show some kind of uniformity in the skin tone as much as you do in the value or the color. So I'm just going to darken her skin tone somewhat with the time I have to match what we're seeing everywhere else in the body. And then grab this yellow. This yellow is coming from underneath her face. So we would be getting this yellow light on all of the areas that are facing it, all of the planes of the face that are facing. So the top of her lip, the bottom of her chin, all of these areas get this very, very extreme light. The bottom of her eyelid, her lashes, and you see how much more natural that looks. You're not relying on daylight values for a nighttime scene. You've broken the laws of physics and the laws of rotation. This is what happens when you guys do masterpieces before it's time for you to do masterpieces. I get it. It's fun to illustrate. But when in that fun that you're having of illustrating, are you going to do some studies? Because it's never been more important to know how to study. In this age of AI, you guys will find yourselves competing with AI's flashiness, and you will skip the studies. And what will happen is that you will be even more kind of tempted to do this flashy type of illustrating style where you get to the fun stuff before the boring form study. So you're even more tempted. And I think that's a really, really dangerous place to be, because when I was growing up learning how to draw, I had no such issue. My only competition were the people I wanted to be like, and paint like. And you guys are getting it really rough in this era. And so try to stay, if you're having trouble sitting down and doing studies, so that something like this, you know, knowing how to apply a light, knowing how to rotate a head, it comes easily to you. If you're finding trouble doing that, stop browsing. Stop browsing art. Hop off of all of these social media platforms. They want you to stay on, and that should be a big clue that you shouldn't, you know? So hop off of them and start focusing on studying, because more and more lately I see masterpieces and less studying. Like 5, 6 years ago, I saw a lot of studying that you know, that happened before the masterpieces, and now all the artists that did the masterpiece, that did the studies, now are in their era of doing masterpieces. But you guys are completely skipping your training. You guys are skipping university. You guys are skipping the education that you have to do, the necessary amount of training and mileage and practice. And you guys are jumping into really, really high difficulty illustrations that have a lot of gesture, that have a lot of design, that have a lot of light, complex light situations. You're just setting yourselves up to have more and more to fix each time. So I'm just reacting to this light source here to the best of my ability as well, just to hurry it up. Just trying to find where that sheen line is for all of the hair. And then right down here, we would get a lot of that light coming from the bottom. But anyways, I can't cover everything in this painting, but I hope it explains something to you. So let's see the before and after. Before, after. You did not need to show all of those splotches of green and brown and gold. You have almost, like, this would be something at, like, how many side view drawings have you done? Studies? None? Diagrams? None? Trace over diagrams at least? None? Because that's what it looks like. You kind of just jumped in and did whatever you wanted, which is okay. I mean, there's courage in that, but there's a lot of mistake making in that too. And sometimes in making all these mistakes, a certain type of frustration emerges that discourages an artist. You are setting yourself up for more discouragement the more studies you skip. Believe me, I've been doing this a long time. And I used to skip studies and try to illustrate, and I would just hate myself, because after 2-3 weeks of illustrating, I was just like, God, I thought I did well with this painting. But after seeing it, taking a break from it and coming back, I was like, oh man, there's mistakes everywhere. This looks nothing like the artists I want to imitate. And then I really just like I tried to humble myself and looked at what these artists say about why they got so good. And it was always, oh, I studied. I sat there, I had a reference, and I tried to mimic what was in that reference. I analyzed the reference, I broke it down, I learned how lights emerge, I learned what a coarse shadow is, and then I worked my way back up to masterpieces. So before, after. If you think that her skin isn't brown enough, really it's just the type of scenario you have here. I really don't think you have a lot of space to show the delicate, you know, type of skin tone that she has that's really only visible at, in the daytime. I think that darker skin tones all have a touch. If you really do miss it and you don't want her to look like a blue alien, you can just get color on any brown here, any of these cooler browns. So I'm just going to go into red, maybe even purple, and move into these colors and use it on her skin ever so gently. A purple, because the darker these values go, the more purple they look at nighttime. So if you really want to get rid of some of that and bring in some skin tone, look at the value I'm using. I'm using a red, a dark purple red. That's what that skin tone would look like at 9. It would not look like brown, brown, just, good old crayon brown. Because only the sunlight can show that. All right, so before, after, before, after. The color is so much more uniform, and it feels a lot more easy to look at, both in the anatomy and in the rotation of the anatomy. So like, she has a chin now. She doesn't have a random closed off cavity here, especially if you were trying to do a tilt. And she has a believable skin tone. And then finally, I'm just going to add that smile that I took away. But this time, I'm not going to rely on a line to make the smile happen. I studied mouths. I know how mouths look like when they smile. The whole mouth is moving. And if there is a dimpling, it happens something like that. Okay, so before, after. All right. And then maybe if the mouth was dimpling, we would see just a bit more radial shading. All right, so before, after. All the colors are uniform. You've got 2 main colors working together. You've got yellow and blue, and everything feels good. As for the composition, this character is really badly cropped. You should crop her somewhere here. The character needs to take up most of the illustration. Where you were before, it was just too small. There's no way to really show this online. There's no way to publish it to look like this unless it's a title book, front cover or something. But right here, I think this is more of a reasonable crop. You get to show a little bit of that environment you're building, instead of losing it in the smallness of the character in her background. Okay, and then there is this one. Do you guys want to see how small the head looked before? Are you guys ready? You were not prepared for how small that head was. It was microscopic. Too small. And unless you really are going for like a type of Goliath people, something where like they have really strong, long arms and very small heads, like unless that's something you're going for, and long legs, this is not right. Unless that's something you're going for, what you had before was wrong. Like, there really is a limited amount of room for you to mess around with human anatomy before you start moving into humanoid or straight up creature design. Before, after. It would be much more difficult for me to shrink the body to the head, but at this point, I just want to make the point. You could easily shrink the body to match the head. Even with this shrunken body, even with this enlarged head, her arm still looks very, very long. Look at how low it reaches while bent. It would look even longer unbent. So what I'm going to do is unbend it to show that this pretty much is the max for this arm. All right, now it looks a little bit more accurate, and I'm going to unbend this arm to show that she has to do more to reach it. She has to unbend. If you're making a character look like they're doing this, these arms are like long. It's like those long arm people in One Piece. Remember those people with the double jointed arms? It doesn't really look right. It looks like, again, a humanoid or creature design. So now it looks a little bit more accurate and a lot more easy on the eyes. Before, even the most unskilled artist or like the unskilled viewer would look at this and say, there's something off about this. I really can't tell. And then after, this looks a little bit more appropriate to the head size and her leg size. If you really want to, you can shrink her head just a little bit more. I think the baby peeking its head out and smiling like that is a little bit uncanny as well. I don't want to shrink it too much. I'm not sure why he's facing the camera directly. It feels more like symbolic. I think what you should do is show that the baby is is kind of like looking somewhere else, maybe. Maybe he's like looking to the side. He's not really that happy to be there. I mean, it's cold. And maybe he's got his eyes closed, his little baby eyes. Maybe he's just sleeping. Now he looks a little suspicious. I'll fix it in a second. So he's just like sleeping and his head is tucked off to the side. No more staring at the cameraman like you know, in a very uncanny way. It's just too much. All right, so I'm just showing the sleeping baby eyes. Girl, you are too young to have a baby. Go to Inuit University or something first. Get your get a career before having a baby. What are you doing? Look at you. You're just struggling to feed him. You've got some kind of goblin heads or body part, like maybe blubber hunting with your pet polar bear. Like, look at you, man. Where's your man? Why isn't he doing this? Where's your man? Look at this. Look at this deadbeat baby expecting you to feed him. Come on, girl. Do better for yourself. Anyway. What do you like? At most you're 23. Children are expensive, even for Inuit polar living people living in the North Pole or wherever this fantasy realm is, Inuit style inspired. Go learn some magics, go learn some alchemy first. Establish a cool apothecary business in your village. What are you doing having babies with men who don't even know how to hunt for blubber? And even if you did marry a revolutionary who died in the war and he actually would have taken care of you had he not died in the war. What are you doing marrying problematic men and then having children with them? I'm in my old lady era right now, and I'm all right. So I'm also going to just this baby is just too visible. So I'm just going to kind of throw him under the shroud, the protective shroud of his mother's hood, just like that. He shouldn't be as visible as she is since he's tucked right in under. Do you see that? And I'm also not sure where her bonnet ends and where the baby. So why is he sticking his head out so far? Maybe we should just throw the bonnet in front. Just like here, so that it makes sense that he's back there. And I'm just going to throw the shadow of the bonnet over his head as well. Now he looks a bit more cozy, comfortable, warm in his mom's whatever hat. You need a Patreon ASAP. I do have a Patreon. Okay, so let's take one more look at how small this head was and how long those arms were. Do you guys see that? All right, before, after, and I kind of messed up the snow here. The arms were so long and the head was so short that it makes normal proportions look weird. That's how you know you went way too far. You went way too far the other direction. I think this is some kind of like caravan situation, so lots of different people are traveling. I think the one thing missing in the environmental aspect is the shadow. The shadow is still there and it needs to be a little bit more present. But it's diffused. All the snow is diffusing the shadow. I think that's the biggest thing that was missing. If you take anything away, it's the head size and the shadow. Everything else, even the smiling baby, you can keep. But this shadow is really, really important. Without it, it just looks like they're kind of floating in this environment. Before, after. Do you see that? It looks much more realistic. And then right here, right under the paws that are touching the ground, add just a touch more ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is when the light is completely rejected. We see a little cave between two surfaces meeting each other. Okay, so don't have babies too early. Too early. Focus on your education. So you can be independent. Okay, girls? And then of course make sure that you study anatomy, which is very, very important as well, lady artists out there, and find a good reference so that something like the shadow wouldn't have, completely, you wouldn't have missed it completely. All right, so that's it. And then we have one more, which is this one. This person was asking, what can I do to make it better? So let's talk about what you did to kill it. Okay, what killed it? Let's talk about what you did right and what killed how good that looked. So you had something going really nice. Now something is beautiful that's happening here, but you interrupted it for no good reason, which is this beautiful slant in the environment. Look at that. It's so pretty. It's not quite level. It's a forest that's also hilly, So why did you go and interrupt this beautiful line of sight you added in? This kind of, not quite a line of sight, but it can, arguably, it's where our eyes are traveling to see each character. Why'd you kill it? Why'd you cut it off? Why'd you interrupt it? Let us see this hill. If you want to show another hill in the background, cool. Okay, I'll leave that. I'll leave that alone. But at least let these trees, here, let me just raise that up. At least let these trees just be more a part of that beautiful line of sight. Now take a look at that. This was something you did that you interrupted. And that's something you're going to run into a lot as a student. You're going to do something right, but you're going to kill it. You're not sure why you killed it, but it's just going to get killed. And you're going to notice it, and your eye and your brain are going to notice it. You're going to say, 30 minutes ago, the drawing actually looked kind of nice, but now it's just, I'm not feeling it anymore. That's because that's how important critique is, first of all. And that's because you're not sure which composition rule you even used. You kind of just threw them all into a cannon and shot out, hoping that it would hit somewhere. So if you have a good movie scene that inspires you, mimic, copy, straight up copy the composition. Compositions, you can't copy a composition because we've only got like a good 5 compositions, and that's it. Everything else is just derivative of those 5. Right? So you can copy straight up compositions. My students, I give them movies to study, and I force them to mimic, study, and memorize certain compositions. Movie makers do this as well. Cameramen do this. Everybody knows these set of kind of like rules of how to lay down something for it to look its most beautiful. And if you really want this kind of like stage play scenario between these two characters, meaning that they're both on the same mid-ground. They're both on the same level. There isn't one in the foreground and she's kind of got her ears out and she's looking at him and she's about to approach and he's looking at her. You didn't make it dynamic on the Z-axis. You kept it on the X-axis. If you're going to be, if you're going to stick to this, give us one good storybook slots type thumbnail environment where we have foreground, middle ground, background, really nice and clean and concise. Now is the next thing, which is what you did with the foreground. The foreground is a touch too light. So let's take a look at the foreground. The foreground should be a little bit darker, especially if you're going for that storybook layout. All right. So I'm just grabbing this tree. This tree looks good. It doesn't need to be much darker, but I need to at least get the other guys to be darkened. This is the rule. Foreground is dark. Not always, not in everything you'll see, but in almost all illustrations, they're going to be darker because that's what reads. Oops. Son of a bitch. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna just darken it a little bit more. Take a look at that. Ooh la la. Now we have a foreground. It's close to us. And because of the camera, because of the way the camera is focusing, it's darkened. And this is where we get the most of the light. This is a very standard lighting scenario. So you've given us this really, really bright spotlight. And the spotlight, you have a really unique opportunity right now with the spotlight. You can make it so that the spotlight is coming in from the side. It's nice and yellow and beautiful and bright. Maybe I'll use on soft light. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh my God. You see that? It just revived the whole painting because everything was cool and dim. And you gave us this really, really cute little light coming in between the trees. You can make it a bit more sharp and literal like that, which I think matches your whole setup. Or you can make it a little bit more diffused. It's really up to you. But look at that. Oh my goodness. And so, excuse me, I need a moment to recover. So we have just a little bit of the ear of the deer. Oh wow, catching a little bit of that light. Oh my goodness, right? Isn't that so nice? So now we've used this light to connect these two characters. What I would do if I were you is expand this a little bit. Just nudge it over a little bit closer to the deer so that the deer, it makes sense that the deer's ear is getting caught in some of that light. And then I'm just going to show just a little bit of where the edge of that light is. Oh my goodness. Can you tell I like to draw? And I'm just showing where that little bit of light is coming in. Beautiful, huh? And then I'm just gonna really expand on that light on the deer's ear. Okay, and then finally there's just the position of everything. So what I'm gonna do is just duplicate the layer. Actually, give me a minute. I'm gonna merge everything. No, not that. Yeah, so I'm just gonna merge everything down and nudge the illustration just a little bit lower. And that's because it's just a little too high on the canvas. We really don't need, the ground is low. Do you see what I'm saying? If the ground is low, your character should be lower on the canvas to the ground. It's just a quick little trick that makes viewers feel like they're more involved. They're more part of the environment you're depicting. So you see before it was just high in the canvas for no reason. This is considered high for an environment. When you're standing up straight, what do you see more of? Your environment or the ground? You see more of the environment. You're going to see, you're more equipped to look up than you are to look down while you're looking forward. You're looking forward / up. And so it's the same thing with stuff like illustrations and all of that. We see tall trees, so give the trees an opportunity to be tall. Oh, here, let me. Okay, shut up. So I'm just gonna expand them. Right, so you're not really giving the trees an opportunity to be tall. If this is where you're putting, this is not a high angle looking down. We're not on a hill. We're on the same hill that the characters are on. So putting the characters a little lower on the canvas goes a long way. Put them on the lower half of the canvas. That does a lot for your painting. Is that the half line? No. That's like the half line right there, yeah. Okay. So before they were just right on that line. That's not good. That's not good camera work. Just a little bit lower, we see more of the trees. And in a forest, that's what a forest is, lots of trees. Right? The length is what tells the story. This is called symbolic what's the term I can use? It's like a symbolic familiar thing that gets something clicking in your brain. It's a symbol. So if I were to do this, you don't think a forest, you think a comb. But if I did this, this is the symbol for a forest. If I went and did this, this looks even more like a forest now. Made background, foreground. Now it looks even more like a forest. So this symbol is what we're pulling from when we lengthen those trees up and show where the characters are and where the trees are. Okay? And so now we're going to take a look at where's the merge flannel? So now we're going to take a look at what you had before. And you can see how there was not much continuity in the background and what was happening. So before, you have this beautiful light, but you don't show its effect on anything else other than this patch of ground. This character, this deer, feels very random. It doesn't have any connection to this character. You want to show that the light means peace. It's a peaceful cooperation between the woodland animals and this wizard of the forest who has a mushroom on his head. He must be very one with the forest. And then there's the environment that you interrupted, this downward slope in this mountainous forest that you kind of broke off for no reason. We don't know where the horizon is or the edge of our canvas is. Or the edge of the mid-tone is. Not the mid-tone. Help me out. What is the mid-place? The mid-ground. And then, of course, you have the objects in the foreground, which had almost the same values as the mid-ground. That's not good. We want to see real nice differentiation between everything. Okay? And if you were me, you would do something like this. I'm just going to, just real quick, this is the last painting, and I'm out of time, but that's okay. There's always time to have a little bit extra light. I would add just a touch more of a glow on the characters. I really like light. It just adds a little mystical something. You don't have to add it. I added just the necessary amount, but you can see that it's just kind of taste at this point. But I would love to see just a little bit bounce back once it hits the ground. All right, before, after, before, after. More immersive, more clean. I know you guys want to be unique in this world of everybody doing the same thing, but there's only so many things you can be unique with. Write that back to me. Meaning you're going to have to accept in your journey, you're going to have to accept that you're going to be repeating somebody else's composition. And it's not even their composition, it's the world's composition. Composition is for everybody. You're going to have something that's concrete, and on top of the thing that's concrete, stable, like a composition that's nice and clean, you can be unique. But you can't be unique and make up a new composition that doesn't really aid the human eye and the way the human eye works. We are limited by the way the human viewing patterns are. That's why we have only a handful of compositions, of human viewing patterns, what's comfortable for the human to view, observe, and take in, combined with mathematical ways of organizing symmetrically the viewfinder, that is our two eyes symmetrical to each other. And then, of course, the wide angle camera, which makes sense. We don't have vertical cameras, right? I mean, we do. But, you know, for movies, we film things in a horizontal way so we can take in more of the environment. I'll stop jibber jabbering. Thank you everyone for watching today. I really appreciate you guys coming out to the stream. If you want to submit your work for critique, you just have to go here to my subreddit, click on the subreddit icon on istebrak.com, and that'll take you to my subreddit. That's where I found pieces to critique today. And for those who attended today's live stream, right after the stream, if you want to purchase my masterclass and my stylized portraiture class that also comes with a hair tutorial, all you have to do, and this is the same code you will all use for every stream. There's only 10 uses per stream after every stream. It's stream 10, just no capitalizations, just stream 10. And 10 viewers will be able to get up to 15% off, 10 to 15% off right after the stream until the 10 run out. And if you are interested in Patreon, somebody mentioned it, I do run classes through Patreon. We just finished our first month of diagnostic studies. So everyone did their diagnostic pieces, handed them into me. I critique them, and I give them a new set of homework, and that's every single month forever, as long as you stay on the Patreon. And then, of course, there's private tutoring and all of that. Those are obviously different price tiers. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'll see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye, guys.